So good morning students and welcome to the second lecture of the series for electromagnetism chapter 1 scalar and vector fields. So today in this video we will talk about gradient of a scalar field. This lecture gonna be about 40 to 45 minutes, and in this lecture we will talk about the gradient in more briefly and much briefly than you have ever had. So let's start with the topic that every time whenever we starting a topic we start with the name. Okay, so listen here, I write down right in front of you that gradient of a scalar field, gradient of scalar field. So the thing implies in here is that every time when you talk about gradient, that means that you are talking about a scalar field. It will be applied only on a scalar field. So why it is not on a vector field? And what if you apply gradient on a scalar field, and what the results could be, and what it will be to you, and what it is up to you. So let's begin with the topic. First I am talking about the gradient. So what is gradient? So what is the gradient? Gradient in sense that a literal change in some kind of the quantity you are having at so quantity you are having for your experimental level or some sort of like this. So what gradient is? Gradient is the rate of change. Simply the gradient means rate of change. So there will be a change with the rate, and rate in with respect to, simply you can call it the rate of change one quantity. The quantity be like a scalar quantity. Okay, so one quantity or any quantity with respect to always with respect to what? With respect to a specified parameter. And parameter in sense of length, it could be in sense of mass, it could be in sense of volume, or it could be in sense of the coordinates. Okay, so gradient, what gradient is? Gradient is the rate of change of one is not suitable here. Rate of change of any quantity with respect to a specified parameter. Okay, so this is what gradient is. Gradient is rate of change of any quantity with respect to a specified parameter. So in sense of what, if we are talking about gradient of scalar field, so what it will be? The gradient of a scalar field. The gradient of scalar field, so here I have the definition here. How you gonna define gradient of a scalar field? So what it will be? The gradient of a scalar field will be maximum rate of change of that particular quantity. And what type of quantity it is? It must be a scalar quantity. Okay, so maximum rate of change of that particular quantity and every time a quantity is expressed by a function. Keep in mind, every time a quantity is expressed by a function. So scalar quantity will be expressed by a scalar function. So here it is, maximum rate of change of that particular quantity in sense of the scalar quantity or the function is termed as gradient of scalar field. Okay, so maximum rate of change of that particular quantity, or in sense you can call rate of change of that function. The function, what kind of a function it is? As you are talking about the scalar quantity, then the function expressing a scalar quantity must be a scalar function. Okay, so what scalar means? Scalar means some sort of magnitude but not of direction. That is called a scalar quantity. Okay, so maximum rate of change of that particular quantity, and quantity is type of that scalar quantity. The function is termed as the function is termed as gradient of scalar field. Every time you define a function, a symbolic representation we have as phi. Every time you define a function with a symbolic representation phi, I take in here phi. And now as we have defined the gradient, so it is up to us to define gradient and its physical significance. We will signify gradient in the physical sense or the physical meaning of gradient. Physical significance of gradient of scalar field. So we will talk about the physical significance. So students, as we take an example, for example, let me assume that the gradient quantity we have you know, sorry, not the gradient quantity, but the scalar quantity we are talking about, or the scalar function. For the previous video, I have given you some sort of examples for the scalar functions. So what are the scalar fields or the scalar functions? The examples are, for example, let me take temperature for our simplicity. Okay. Okay. So here I have temperature for our simplicity. We will talk about temperature, and we will signify temperature in physical sense as a gradient. Okay. So the rate of change of temperature within in sense of the coordinates or in sense of some sort of parameters we will talk later. So temperature. So every time if you have assumed that, and if you have imagined or if you felt in your all around or in your surroundings, the temperature varies from surface to surface or layer by layer. I think I must represent you here. That every time you're talking about, let me consider a material, and every time you know that material is consists of some sort of materialistic layers. Okay, material is some sort of materialistic layers. So the layer near to the temperature source or the heat source, near to the heat source, must have high temperature than that which is far of the heat source. Okay, so this layer must have higher temperature than this one. So you can say that the temperature is varying from surface to surface. When you move from one surface to the another one, then the temperature will vary. So we will signify gradient in that same sense, how the things will change, how the thing will happen. And for example, in temperature, for more your simplicity, you can consider this marker as a conducting rod of some sort of metal, you can say, the metal which can transfer heat from one point to another. Let me consider if I have a lighter here. Okay, I have a lighter here, and the rod is put on in the sense that if this point must be heated up. So if you if you know, because if you can imagine, I know very well, you can imagine it very well, that if the lighter is here and this end is heated up, then you must know that this end will have higher temperature than this one. Okay, even though the rod is conducting, you know very well the rod is conducting, because every time you consider a metallic rod, so metals are those which conduct heat and electricity pretty much well than other materials. So if they are conducting heat, even though this end where the heat source is near, which is near to the heat source, must have higher temperature than that of which is far away. Okay, so the same thing happens here. Okay, I think example over. So how will we signify gradient? So this is our topic, and we will talk about it. Let me consider an axis here. This is a two-dimensional axis for us. Okay, we will not giving specifying it's a parameter like the x-axis and the y-axis. This doesn't matter at all, and we doesn't need it to. Let me consider that we have two surfaces S1 and S2 here. You got two surfaces S1 and S2. Here are the two surfaces. You can see that, and we consider a scalar function. We consider a scalar function phi. Let me consider that the value of scalar function for the surface S1 is phi, and for that for that surface S2 is phi plus del phi. Okay, for the first surface the value is phi, and for the second surface the value is phi plus del phi. Okay, let me consider a point here, the point P, every time the point P, and the distance of point P from origin O, let's say represented by a position vector r. Okay, and in same sense, if we consider a point Q on the surface S2 and the position vector of point Q from the origin O is r plus del r, is r plus del r. And if we consider these differences, these points are infinitesimal small, if we consider that these points are infinitesimal, then we can say that the distance between point P and Q, the distance between the points P and Q for a linear line must be delta r. And you know why I written delta r here? It is not perfectly delta r, but it is near about delta r. For in sort of examples, you can consider the things are pretty much shorter than you can imagine. These are pretty much shorter. So for these surfaces, for the surface S1, for the surface S2, the value of scalar function varies from phi to del phi, phi plus del phi. Okay, here is a variation in the scalar quantity or the scalar function, and the point P and the point Q are the points which are representing the surfaces S1 and S2 for our calculation. And for our simplicity, we consider that the point P is at a distance represented by position vector, or it is not the distance but it is the position vector. Okay, it is the position vector. And why we consider position vector? Every time there is a sorry, I must say here, every time you consider a distance and position vector, have you ever imagined that what is the difference between the distance and the position vector? Every time you consider distance, you need not to be talk about the axis, okay? Or the axis are specified, you need not to talk about. For example, you are considering distance in sense of x-axis or in sense of y-axis or in sense of z-axis. But every time you're talking about position vector specifies that a point lies in a plane, not on an axis, okay? Is it complicated to you? Okay, let me explain again. Every time you're talking about distance, then distance always varies with respect to single axis. Okay, that doesn't mean to it that if it is going to if it is varying for the lateral axis or the axis perpendicular to it, no, that doesn't matter. But every time you're talking about a position vector always specifies that the quantity you are talking about or the point you are talking about lies in some sort of a plane. Or in a three-dimensional structure. Well, this is a part apart, that doesn't mean to us. So what here we have taken? We taken two surfaces. We taken two surfaces S1 and S2. These are the two surfaces, and for these values of scalar function varies from phi to phi plus del phi. So here is the variation in the scalar function phi to phi plus del phi. So the displacement vector between the surfaces S1 and S2. So this is we have done here. It is the most simplest you can write about here. We are explaining this figure. So and there is far more explanation, like the position vector OP is r vector and the position vector for distance OQ is r plus del r. But the main thing we need about is our distance PQ. PQ will be needed for us because it is far more important for our calculus. Okay, the displacement vector, for surfaces S1 and S2, what it will be? The displacement vector for surfaces S1 and S2, what it will be? It will be the PQ. Okay, so PQ vector, and what it is? It is delta R. So consider it as an equation 1, because we will gonna use the result for our further calculation. Well, I don't think so that if we need to specify it as an equation, you just have to consider it in your mind. So this is the function, this is the displacement vector between the surfaces S1 and S2, and now we consider the rate of change, for the function phi traveling from P to Q. In sort of, you can say, for the function phi, for the displacement vector, displacement vector PQ will be, so what it will be, what is the value for rate of change of the function for the displacement vector PQ will be? It will be del phi upon del r. Okay, so it will be the displacement vector. For more specification, you can write here, as we are taking about the quantity in this del form, so we write up to here del phi over del r, and it will be the equation 1. We will gonna use this for our further calculation. Okay, so for your notes, you can take a screenshot here. I must be aside, and you can take a screenshot for your calculation. We will go further for our results. Okay, I hope that you have taken up. Let me clear this off, and we will proceed further. Okay, we are good to go. Okay, so these points P and Q is the distance between the surfaces S1 and S2. We know it pretty much well, but what it will be this, but it is not the shortest distance between the surfaces. Okay, keep in mind that P and Q is not as shortest distance. So we consider that, let me consider a point R here. Okay, so point R here, point R for what? Point R, okay, and here will be direction normal. So this is the direction normal to the surfaces. Every time you consider two surfaces, every time consider in your mind, if we have two surfaces, right, one over the other, okay, one over the other, but these two are not overlapping, they are a distance apart. So we are considering point P here and point Q here, so it will be like this. Okay, so what it will be the shortest distance? The shortest distance, it is not the shortest distance. So what it will be the shortest distance? The shortest distance will be the perpendicular distance between the surfaces. Okay, the perpendicular distance between the surfaces. So what is the perpendicular distance here? The perpendicular distance is here the distance PR. Okay, I know that our diagram is not looking so pretty much well, not so cool, but consider in your way. So the shortest distance between surfaces S1 and S2, let's say shortest distance between the surfaces S1 and S2 is PR. Okay, so the distance PR, as you know that it is the distance in direction normal to the surface S1. So in for some sort of our calculation, we take it as delta n. Okay, we consider it as del n. PR will be del n. We will gonna use it for our calculation every time because the rate must be changing from point P to Q. Also it's changing from surface S1 and S2. So what it will be the minimal change. Okay, we will talk about minimal change, and for this we consider the minimum distance between the points between the surfaces S1 and S2, and it is delta n. Okay. So the rate of change the rate of change of scalar function in direction normal to the surface and direction normal to the surfaces. What it will be the change? The change, or in the direction of PR, what it will be change? The change will be del phi over del n. This is equation 2. Okay. We will need our equation 1 and equation 2 for our far more calculation. Now we consider a line joining the points R and Q. Okay, we have a rough line here. Okay, we are considering a rough line RQ joining the points R and Q, and if we consider that the distance the distance PQ is infinitesimal small. Okay, if we consider the distance, what distance it is? If the distance del R is infinitesimal, then triangle PQR, can be considered as right angled triangle. Okay, so the triangle PQR, this is the triangle PQR. So this is the triangle, and we can consider this triangle as right angle triangle. And let me assume that the angle between the arms PQ and PR, here say this angle is theta. Okay, we consider this example, and the angle between arms PQ and PR is theta. Say, okay. So the angle is theta, and now we will have a relation between delta n and the relation between delta r. So what it will be the value of PR? So PR will be, so what the value of PR? PR will be PQ sin theta. Okay. So the value of PR will be this will be PQ sin of theta. And what is the PR? PR is delta n is equal to delta r. Sorry, not the sin theta. Sorry, this will be the cos theta. Okay, this will be the value delta n will be equals to delta r cos of theta. This is equation 3. Keep in mind the equation 1, keep in mind the equation 2 and the equation 3. What is the equation 1? This is clear. This is equation 2 and this is equation 3. We will gonna use these as our result in our further calculations. Let me clear this off. We will need the diagram for our future response. Okay, let me clear this off. I'm going faster and faster and faster, but not so fast. Okay, so this is what it is. Have you remember equation 1? Do you remember equation 1? Equation 1 was what it was, the equation 1? Equation 1 was the rate of change of scalar function phi for the arm PQ, which was del phi over del r. So now this is our turn to put value of del r in equation 1. Substituting value of del r from equation 3 in equation 1. So what was the equation 1? Equation 1 was del phi over del r, the rate of change of scalar function phi with respect to the point, with respect to the arm PQ. Okay. So del phi over del r, and what it will be? Del phi over del n cos of theta. Okay, so this is what we got. As you know, this will be the result, and as we know, the maximum value, of cos of theta will be 1. The maximum value for cos of theta will be 1. So what if we go for maximum? If we go the maximum rate of change of scalar function phi, what it will be up to? It will be up to del phi over del n. And for the direction purpose, we take the perpendicular n cap, unit vector perpendicular to the surfaces n cap in the direction of the surface. Okay, so it will be. But what if the limit del r will be 0? Because we are considering this distance as infinitesimal small. So what if del r will approach 0? The calculation will be, what it will be the impact on the calculation, what are its effect. Okay, so we are talking about that, what if del r will be 0? In the limit del r approaches 0. So what when del r approaches 0, then this delta can be replaced by a perfect differential. Okay, for the limit tends to 0, normal delta or the curly delta can be replaced by perfect differential. So it will be d phi over dr, the maximum, is equals to d phi over dn, and again n cap for directional purpose, but well, for perfect differential we do not need. So this is equation 4, and this is our desired equation we are subjected to draw. You can take a screenshot for your reference. Okay, so what you got from this equation? This equation, you can write down this equation as the maximum rate of change for the scalar function will be in the direction perpendicular to the surfaces. What result we got from this equation? Let me write over here. Consider I am writing the last paragraph here. From equation 4, we can say that maximum rate of change of the scalar function will be in the direction perpendicular to the surfaces. And perpendicular to which surfaces? The surfaces which are representing that particular scalar function. Okay, so this is what it is we are subjected to draw, and this is the physical significance of gradient. For your reference you can write, and for our simplicity, what is the gradient will be, and I am writing some sort of piece here. This is the rest of the calculus, and now we will go for further calculation for the Cartesian coordinate, and we will have values of gradient for some specific functions. Okay, let me clear this off. When you meet such kind of question in your examination, and it will be about 3 to 4 marks, then you are subjected to the calculation right up to here. This is the equation you are subjected to come out to be for, and within this equation your calculation will be enough, and you will subjected to get about 2.5 marks and maybe 3 marks if you got a good handwriting like me. Okay, so what it will be, the gradient we are talking about, gradient of phi, simply you can write as grade of phi, and what will be the value of grade of phi? It will be d phi over dn, and the direction, for direction you can say it will be n cap will be the direction where is the rate of change will be maximum, or you can write here d phi over dr maximum n cap. Okay, so this will be the gradient, and within here we end up for the physical significance. Okay, what does the physical significance tells us? The physical significance tells us when you are talking about gradient, and what is the gradient is? Gradient is the maximum rate of change of any scalar function with respect to some sort of axis or some sort of parameters you are subjected to. Then here it will be the maximum rate of change for the physical significance. You can say that the maximum rate of change of that particular scalar function will be in the direction perpendicular to the surface. What does n cap represent? N cap represent a unit vector perpendicular to the surface, which represent that particular scalar quantity or the scalar function. Okay, so now it is up to us to, we will talking about a gradient for Cartesian coordinates. I hope you understand all of this, and if you have any question, then consider in your mind, we will sort out later. But I don't think so that you will get some sort of questions in your mind. Okay, let me clear this off, because we will not need it to anymore. Hope that you won't forget to take the screenshot. Okay, let me clear this off properly. I'm going faster and faster and faster. We will not lose even a single minute for our calculation. Okay, okay. Okay, so we are ready. I am ready. Okay, I am ready for the calculation of gradient of a scalar in Cartesian coordinates. We will express our gradient of that same function, of that function phi in Cartesian coordinates. You know the Cartesian coordinates are the x-axis and the y-axis and the z-axis, and the unit vector associated with all of these axes are the I cap, j cap and k cap. Okay, so what it will be? From the definition of gradient, from the definition of gradient, you know what is the definition of gradient? The gradient will be the grade of phi. We are taking phi as a scalar function of the function which is subjected to us. It will be d phi over dn n cap. This is the definition, and we consider this is must be the equation 1, because we will go for some sort of calculus here. Let me consider, let the displacement vector be. We will talking about the displacement vector in sense of what? In sense of the Cartesian coordinates. Okay, the displacement vector will be in sense of Cartesian coordinates. So in Cartesian coordinates, you can write dr as I cap dx plus j cap. Okay, j cap dy plus k cap dz. Okay, so this will be the this will be the displacement vector. Okay, so what is the value? Because we have the displacement vector here. So now what if we multiplying dr vector on both sides of equation 1. So what if we multiply? It will be the grade of phi dot dr vector will be equals to d phi over dn n cap dot dr, because every time you will go for a vector multiplication, you will go for a dot product or a scalar dot product, sorry, yes, dot product or a cross product. Okay. As we were talking about earlier that the angle between del r and n cap was theta. So what is the value of n cap dot dr? So the value of n cap dot dr must be dr cos of theta, which is equals to dn. Do you remember the figure? I hope that you remember the figure. Last we were talking about that dr is in this direction, sorry, dr in this direction, and dn will be in this direction, and both of these are making an angle theta with respect to each other. When we were talking about the points PQ and the point PR, then the PR point representing the direction dn, and the point PQ and the arm PQ represents the length dr. Okay, so both of these making an angle theta with respect to each other. So what is the so n cap dot dr will be equals to, simply you can say that it will be the dr cos of theta, or simply you can say that it will be dn. We have talking about our calculation here. Okay, so this is it. So what does this equation becomes? What does this equation becomes? Gradient of phi dot dr vector will be equals to d phi, because dn will be cancelled out within this dn. Okay, so it will be d phi, the rate of change of the change in scalar function d phi. It is d phi doesn't representing any rate, it representing only as some sort of quantity and a fraction of quantity in some short sense. Okay, because every time differentiation represents some sort of quantity and a part of the quantity in scalar quantity. In this sense we are talking about here. This is d phi, so d phi leads to the total differentiation. Okay, let's consider this is equation 2 and this is equation 3. The total derivative d phi can be written as, we will write d phi in some sort of delta curly, in some sort of curly derivatives. Okay, so d phi will be I cap curly phi over curly x. You got some sort of expressions of your own, what you say that, sorry, this is not the I cap, but it will be curly phi over curly x for dx, and curly phi over curly y for dy, and curly phi over curly z for dz. Okay, so this will be d phi will be equals to this, and in some sort of sense you can say that grade of phi will be equals to this. Okay, you can say, do you remember the vector product, the dot product of vectors? According to vector multiplication, a vector A dot B, which is I cap AX, J cap AY plus K cap AZ dot I cap BX, J cap BY plus K cap BZ. So what the dot product will be? The dot product will be AX, BX, AY, BY plus AZ, BZ. So similarly, if we have this quantity here, this type of quantity here, and if we will gonna separate it with what it will be? It will be like this. Let me clear this off again. Clear this off here. Okay, let me consider this as an equation 4. Let me clear this off. For equation 4, we may write, what we can write from equation 4? D phi can be written as del phi over del x I cap plus j cap curly phi over curly y plus k cap curly phi over curly z. Okay, so this is a function. Dot what it will be, the dot product will be I cap dx, j cap dy plus k cap dz. Do you remember what it is? Remember what it is? It is the displacement vector dr. So d phi is equal to I cap curly phi over curly x plus j cap curly phi over curly y plus k cap curly phi over curly z dot dr vector. So what it was, the d phi, you remember from equation 3 that d phi is equal to gradient of phi dot dr. Simply I write in here so that our calculation will not go far more, because I don't want to clear out the board again and again and again. You can consider this. So what is the value of gradient of phi? In scalar coordinates it will be, sorry, in Cartesian coordinates it will be curly phi over curly x plus j cap curly phi over curly y plus k cap curly phi over curly z, or simply you can write phi is a scalar function. So let me take it out of here. It will be phi, and this function can be considered as an operator. Okay, so this is the Cartesian coordinate operator, and simply you can say that a gradient of phi is equal to del of phi. This is called the del operator. Okay, the value of del operator is I cap curly over curly x plus j cap curly over curly y plus k cap curly over curly z. This can be cause some confusions to you, because I am calling it as a curly derivative, and some of time it is called as dou derivative, and in your sense you are talking about it as delta or some sort of this. But grade of phi will be equals to del of phi, and this is the Cartesian coordinate presentation of gradient of a scalar field. Okay, so when you are subjected to derive the Cartesian coordinate representation for gradient, then you are subjected to come up with this relation. Okay, so this is we are up to the grade of phi is equal to del phi, where delta is the coordinate operator, and as gradient represents the maximum change, then delta represents maximum change of scalar function in Cartesian coordinates, because delta represents maximum change in Cartesian coordinates. Okay, so this is what we are up to, and now we are subjected to talking about some important scalar functions and their gradient. You can take a screenshot here. I hope you have taken off. So let me clear this off, because we got our result here. So when you are subjected to find out gradient of a scalar function in Cartesian coordinates, then you are subjected to come up with this result. Okay, keep in mind we will go for some numerical calculus for these results, and then we will understand it far more further. And you must keep in mind that whenever you are talking about gradient, then the function must be scalar function, because a gradient will not be for a vector function. Okay, and you know, when you derive gradient, the scalar function will become vector function again. Keep in mind, whenever you are talking about gradient, the scalar function will become the scalar function will come out to be a vector function, because within this the scalar function will have coordinates representing I cap, j cap, k cap representing all the axis x, y and z in the sense. So we are come up with gradient of some important scalar functions. Okay, so we will talk about gradient of some important scalar functions. Some important scalar functions. Well, this is not so necessary or not so important for your examination purpose. This is only for knowledge, and maybe asked for 1.5 mark question if you got a bad luck. Okay, so I am explaining this, the gradient of scalar function. First of all, we must talk about the propagation of heat. The propagation of heat. This is our first example. We were talking about the propagation of heat when the heat source, the end which is near to the heat source will be more hot, and the end which is far away is slightly colder than the end which is near to the source. Okay, so what is the propagation of heat represented here? The propagation of heat, let's consider that ZQ, which is the heat flux. This is the heat flux, which is equal to, this will be equals to Q over AT. So what is Q? Q represents the heat here, okay? Q doesn't represent charge here, it represents heat here. This is the propagation constant for heat, or you can say this is propagated heat. Propagated heat, or the amount of heat which has been propagated. And what this will equals to the JQ, the heat flux. You know, the flux is every time crossing a surface. The field lines which are crossing a surface for unit time is known as flux. So heat flux is the number of field lines for the heat crossing a certain some sort of surface, okay, within some sort of unit time. A represents area here, T represents time here, and this will be equals to minus lambda dt over dx. The dt over dx is the temperature gradient. This is the temperature gradient, the rate of change of temperature with respect to x is x, or with respect to x is you are subjected to, and lambda represents a constant which is used to balance this equation. Okay, so this is what it is. Lambda is a constant which is the thermal conductivity of that particular material. Second, we must talk about current density. Current density can be represented by the gradient of some sort of functions, like the gradient of charge, which is J is equal to sigma delta V over delta x, or this can be written as sigma dV over dx. So what is dV over dx? dV over dx is the potential gradient. This is the potential gradient, and sigma, what is sigma? Sigma is the surface charge density. Okay, so this is what it is. Next, for the third example, I will talking about diffusion of gas molecules. Diffusion of gas molecules. When the gas molecules diffuse in each other, so what it will be the gradient function we are working for here. Let me consider that Jm. It has talking about Jm. What is the Jm? Jm again is the flux for diffusion of gases. Okay, the gas molecule, Jm is the density for gas molecules, which is equals to Nm. Nm, what is Nm? Nm is the number of molecules having mass m over At. Again, the same case in that of the heat, in the propagation of heat or the diffusion of gas molecules is some kind of same, and this will equals to dnm over dx. What it is? This is against the molecular gradient. This is the molecular gradient, and d is the diffusion constant. D is the diffusion constant. And the last example remains is electric field. Electric field. If you have studied Coulomb's law, then you must be known of that electric field E is equal to minus dV upon dx, or for Cartesian coordinates it will be minus del V, or simply you can say minus gradient of V. This is the potential gradient. So this is for today's class, and I hope that you enjoyed this class. And if you have any suggestion or any question, you can write down in the comment box below. So thank you for watching this video. Have a good day.